Hi, today is Friday the 24th of June 2016. It is 9:41 in the morning. I am recording this video. I just have three topics for this video. I am recording this video even though live through the fields right now as I'm sitting here recording this video. I have rather noticeable attempts to keep me from recording this video, so I assume this video will be significantly sabotaged, but then so be it. The three topics are Brexit, can Europe survive, does Britain go dive, the second topic will be one that is very important to me personally because it is defense for science pertaining to inhumane technologies. And the third one is just a wee little example that I stumbled across. I had mentioned in my previous video how on the media, on the news really, I don't follow any social media, as those who torture me should know. I'm not on Twitter and anywhere, Facebook, God forbid, no. And I usually don't give a rat's ass, but every now and then ongoings there make it into the major news websites, and I spotted something which is to the connoisseurs of subtlety and the variedness of manipulations going on, and also the students of methodology of such manipulations, is a very interesting case that I just want to bring up as an isolated case, yes, of not a large scale by itself, but it is a wonderful example of how they fuck people's minds. That is the third one. Talking of Brexit, all of the websites, news websites that I visited this morning were full of it. As I have explained in the past, the European Union is history anyhow. The European Union was created by Fex Mundi, and hence whether or not Britain, which in itself has been declared history, chooses to remain in the European Union is of absolutely no importance whatsoever. It is the most unimportant event, hands down, for the last few years, as of the sheer degree to which it's overstated in importance. No one gives a rat's ass about Brexit. No one. I, as the prime protector of mankind, don't give a rat's ass about Brexit, and as I explained in my documents, emails, and videos, the European Union is history anyhow. There is to be a European Confederation, a confederated Europe, not a unionistic model, and that has England, Scotland, and Wales as integral members, because it will not ask anybody, are you in, because you happen to be in Europe, and you are in. They're all going to be confederated. It's not going to be a matter of choice of whether or not you will be in Europe. So, what's the whole importance then that some people, maybe Fex Mundi interest groups, give to Brexit? As far as I can tell, Fex Mundi whole, the sum total of all interest groups, really couldn't care less whether there had been a yes or no over the Brexit question, because both could be workable. It is just more chaos added to Europe. Chances are there might be a few specific interest groups on Albion who would have preferred one over the other. I couldn't tell, and I honestly, some of my not being able to tell is to do with the fact that I don't care. I couldn't really tell if Albion native interest groups or interest groups not native to Albion, or at least not limited to Albion, succeeded to see their way through in the Brexit with that decision that now has been reached, that Britain is to leave European Union. It is completely unimportant. What will happen, nonetheless, of course, things will happen now. There will be quite a lot of things happening. One of the most magnificent things that will happen is that the people in Albion will get a chance now to actually come to understand what Europe really is, because in the past there have been countless people who tried to talk the nonsense into the heads of the people in Albion that they were not European and that they were not in Europe. And they always tried to make use of the European Union, selling it as if the European Union were Europe. Europe is a continent. Europe is history. Europe is much more than a stupid unionistic model, no matter how inhumane and no matter how made for enslavement as unionistic models generally are. Right? Europe always was more, so infinitely more than the European Union, but often in the past Europe has been reduced to the European Union. And the wonderful thing is, and of course it will take 2 years before that fully sinks in, before it starts to fully sink in, because now you have a, from what I read, up to 2-year-long phase of them actually leaving. It's not gonna happen overnight. So that effect won't hit immediately, but midterm, the people in Albion will get a chance again to get a clear glimpse of what Europe is, a clear view with nothing obstructive in the way, namely that created lie of the European Union. They will see again what Europe is, and that is positive as far as I'm concerned as a European. Now, Brexit does not change anything. As I said, it does not matter. It is, as all good referendums, a completely past the point idiotic question asked where you supply completely idiotic possible answers. That's a good referendum in the insane world that Fex Mundi has created, and it's not even outstandingly good as far as that is concerned. There has been better, but owed to the circumstances, that was as idiotically good as they could make it. If I had a bit of money, which of course I do not have, I would bet that Davy Boy, the good Mr. Cameron, will, should he resign, resign very quickly, because what will follow is 2 years of them having to kiss anybody's ass in Europe, and I don't see David Cameron to be the kind of person to be good at that. Actually, I'd go as far as to think that you will have one more resignation. I'm not even sure, I don't know this by heart, I'm afraid, when the next general election would have come up. I don't know if over these next 2 years they will have general elections coming up over there, but whether that is or not, if Cameron resigns, even he who would succeed him will most probably resign himself over the next 2 years, just because of what the situation would demand of the Prime Minister of the UK, as they still call themselves. So it will be very interesting 2 years. Of course, it will be 2 years of propaganda in the UK. The Brexit winners, as in some media they're called, will utilize Brexit for any other political topic they want to convey people off. To a lesser extent, even the Brexit losers will utilize the Brexit outcome. I don't expect all that many countries in Europe to go all that apeshit crazy about the Brexit result. As in, you know, I mean, there's new ones made. There's Exit, which I read the other day, which is the Austrian exit scenario. That's an right here. Exit. There's Nexit, I think they call it, which is the Netherlands exit scenario. There's all kinds of exit scenarios. You cannot exit the enslavement of mankind by any other method than completely doing away with all inhumane technologies and telling the people what has been going on for 80 years in some parts. So whether or not other countries exit is completely unimportant. It adds at a certain point, not at this point though, Brexit does not really have much of an effect on Europe, so it does not really do any more damage to Europe, which is interesting because some people probably, maybe interest groups outside of Europe, thought it would, maybe expected it to, maybe didn't even specifically wish for it, but expected it to. Brexit has absolutely no impact in Europe. I just want to make that very clear to people. Brexit is completely unimportant. Completely and utterly unimportant. I find the dreadful performance of the ex-Austrian national side football team more worthy of writing home about than Brexit. It is a completely banal occurrence. Now, over on Albion, what you will happen is monarchy stepping forward again. I would also bet money that very quickly, in fact, you will have the first few occurrences where, to calm the populace, some royals or other will address the nation and make clear that the royals are there for the people, and so on and so forth. And they will quickly tire the populace, which is good. I'm not perfectly sure whether some IGs on Albion thought this Brexit shit through, and how that would, what kind of effect that would have on some of their other interests, really. But then, as I said, Fex Mundi interest groups are all collectively insane. They are not capable of logical thinking, and if it, I would love to say that it's a good thing for mankind that there's been Brexit, but the truth is that it absolutely 100% does not make any difference whatsoever. Brexit is absolutely unimportant, 100%. I just want to make that clear. It pertains to an organization, namely the European Union, which I have explained obsolete. I have explained how it is nothing from creation, but a tool to control and have a grip on Europe by Fix Mundi, and that the entire European Union is farcical history anyhow. And whether Britain, and should in theory, and I don't expect that to happen, but should in theory any other countries actually follow, and be it merely with a referendum, not even with an exit vote then in the referendum, even that would not matter. So Brexit doesn't matter. Simmer down, people. What this also means, as it doesn't matter, is that the explicitly anti-European interest groups out there, and I especially address this to some American IGs, is that if you thought this will be a major blow to Europe, no. It will be no blow at all. It will have literally no effect on Europe. None whatsoever. And, if in the past you probably put too much importance on it and wasted way too much of your thinking time on this Brexit shit, maybe now that you have this Brexit shit, you can reutilize that thinking time thinking about the more important stuff again, namely how you should kneel before mankind as long as you can, and not continue trying to analyze the great advances in your interest group's interests and how Britain was torn out of Europe or anything such. Britain was not torn out of Europe. The UK is history anyhow. There will be a new England, newly bordered England, a new Scotland, and a new Wales, and that is that. If anything, I found it interesting. I caught on one news website that, I was familiar with the Scots having said that they might have a new referendum about independence, but for the first time today I read about the Northern Irish and how they're toying with an idea over that. That was new to me. And that too is completely theoretical, hypothetical, because the UK is abolished and Northern Ireland will join Ireland. It's just that should such a referendum happen, and should they get a yes, and I find it highly doubtful, both of those actually, both events highly doubtful, but you know, who knows, it doesn't matter likewise, but it would make it easier, the transition to a liberated mankind and a liberated Europe, a confederated Europe. It would make the healing together of Ireland easier to work if Northern Ireland actually voted for independence. But that's enough about Brexit. It is, you know, what I regret about the Brexit vote is that for the next 2 years, to a certain extent, everything happening on European politics, unimportant and farcical as these ongoings are anyhow, that's already hard to stomach for me. But then everything will be connected with the stupid Brexit shit, which is not making any difference and has no importance at all. It is just more idiotizing the news, idiotizing of politics, and so on and so forth. So Brexit, no one gives a rat's ass, seriously, no one. So that was that topic, Brexit. To the topic of the science that I mentioned before. I want to make something particular very, very clear to people out there. Way back when inhumane technologies first were studied or discovered and thereupon studied, I want the world to understand that we are not talking about scientists who did that. We are talking about engineers, technicians, and for practical purposes, maybe somewhat experienced electricians. Engineers, if you want to put it nicely, right? Maybe you know the Big Bang Theory and how the scientists always kind of look down upon Wolowitz for just being an engineer, and to a certain extent they do that with very good reason. And that distinction is important to be understood. There shall not be anybody who shall scream bloody murder over allegedly science and scientists having brought forth inhumane technologies. Because inhumane technologies were spotted and botched and messed with by mere engineers. People who oftentimes lack the horizon and the philosophical background to actually understand the implication of these technologies as any decent scientist would have had. Okay? There is a distinction between you just being an engineer and you being a scientist. It was not science that created inhumane technologies. Matter of fact, as it didn't require any scientists, the scientists were the first, namely those whose fields would somewhat pertain to the ongoings of these inhumane technologies, to be abused, to have information, knowledge that the extractors didn't understand, because either they were just outright facsimile, completely away from science, or were mere engineers, but they tried to extract scientific secrets and implications of these technologies out of the heads of scientists. And once more, it was done by people who didn't even understand what they tried to extract. Their entire fields of science that pertain to these technologies, any neurosciences, were completely manipulated away from ever studying these things openly. There were results manipulated in the field of neurology and whatnot. All of these fields of science were completely hoodwinked and forcibly utilized to develop their sciences into pseudoscience as best as they could when it pertains to the technologies utilized in mind control and subduing mankind. I want to make it very clear that scientists are not to blame for inhumane technologies. Stupid fucking brain-dead engineers are to blame for inhumane technologies. I want to make that very clear. Science has no guilt over inhumane technologies. And the third topic, there was all kinds of celebrities that mouthed their opinion over the Brexit before we came to know the result. So this was yesterday or 2 days ago, 3 days ago, Daniel Craig, the good, is he still Mr. James Bond or is he no longer? I don't really know. I'm not updated on that status there. But until very recently, still James Bond. He posted something on YouTube or somewhere, no, not on YouTube, sorry, on, I think it was Facebook or Twitter or wherever, where he used the quote, "No man is an island." And unfortunately, he just started that quotation. There is a Wikipedia entry on it where you actually have the entire paragraph of, started off by "No man is an island." The multi-layered manipulativeness of that, also aimed at people's con-egos, and so they be on the faces in people, that, are you an island? No, you are not an island, are you? No, you're all connected. The screaming insanity, the anti-sense that is being established with that quotation is staggering. It is really for the connoisseurs. This is I have never, best to my recollection, did I ever? I don't think I ever did. Best to my recollection, I've never mentioned any specific little shit like that, at least if it's not pertaining to any politicians or whatnot, where some celebrity just does something on some social media. I've never mentioned it in the past. Go find that Daniel Craig posting, black and white little artwork where it starts with "No man is an island." That is severely manipulative, and it is a magnificent example of how Fix Mundi manipulates people. Now, of course, Daniel Craig, all the Bond actors, all the Bond periphery actors, all the Bond producers, Bond as such, has always been utilized by IGs over in Albion, and of course by the Americans once they lost it all. Again, once more, Bonnie fuck Prince Charles to thank for that. I have explained in an earlier video how in one of the Bond movies they signaled for all the wolves to come to Scotland, so to speak. I talked about that and so on and so forth. So everything Bond has always been a field of manipulation by Fix Mundi. But that one in particular is, okay, it's awesome. And that's the 3 topics. I know this video was very boring. I'm sorry I didn't entertain you. Once more, Brexit. How much of a fuck should you give a fuck about Brexit? Well, I suggest, how about you give as much a fuck about Brexit as Lemmy. And he's pretty dead now. So I don't think he gives a fuck anymore. And that's about as much as you should care or worry or think about or analyze or whatnot Brexit. It is a non-topic. It doesn't bloody matter. Okay? And science is not to blame for inhumane technologies. Engineering is to blame for inhumane technologies. In fact, the sheer absence of sanity is explained by the absence of science from the developing of all of these technologies. Useless, idiot electricians for all practical purposes. And that is this video. Thank you.